Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Sean Keegan, a developer evangelist on the Azure Communication Services team. Super excited for this session. We're going to talk about gaining email insights using logs and events. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump right into it. Oh, that is not the right slide, so give me one sec. Off to a fantastic start here. Okay. Okay. So now we are off. So quick agenda for today. We'll start by just doing an overview of Azure Communication Services, what it is in general. Then we'll look at email within the context of Azure Communication Services. Then we're going to jump right into a demo where we're looking at email logs, looking at a dashboard with information on the logs, and how you can set up some custom queries to get the insights you're looking for. And then we'll pivot to looking at email events and triggering automated workflows based on email events. And then we'll send you off with some ways that you can get started doing this on your own with some resources. So with that said, what is Azure Communication Services? It's our AI-ready communication platform. So we have a whole bunch of communication opportunities or ways to communicate, whether that's video, voice, web, and we've essentially white labeled these. So the things that power Teams, we've white labeled these as a series of APIs that you can use in your applications. So some features, it's identity agnostic, so you can bring your own identity. You only pay for what you need. It was built, for the scale of Teams, so you don't have to worry about, whether it can handle large amounts of traffic. And being part of the Azure ecosystem comes with deep interoperability and integration with Teams, M365, and other features in the Azure ecosystem. So some of the communication scenarios that are possible. Towards the top, we have those higher touch human-driven interactions. So we have voice and video calling, chat, and telephony. And as we get more towards the bottom, we have those lower touch automated interactions like SMS, WhatsApp, and the one we'll be focusing on today, email. So with regards to email as a part of Azure Communication Services, there are quite a few capabilities possible today. I won't go through this slide in depth, but you can feel free to take a look at some of the things available. The things we'll be focusing on are these comprehensive email analytics, so measuring delivery success, engagement rates, interaction breakdowns. But you can see we have a whole suite of other capabilities available within email. If you were just getting started with email, we have resources to do this, whether it's creating your first email communication service, setting up custom domains or Azure domains, and then sending your first email. You can do all of this. But today we're going to focus specifically on this last step where we're setting up Azure Communication Services logs, and we're looking at insights and then setting up subscriptions to real-time events. That's our goal today, is looking at how we can get email telemetry. So I think it's helpful to think about the email architecture before we look into the analytics behind them. So if you create an email campaign and you click send, there's a few things that happen, right? It's going to get sent to a send connector, and that's going to get passed on to, in this case, the Azure Communication Email Service through SMTP Relay or REST API, and that's before it gets sent to your recipient inbox. And the benefit of doing that is, if I highlight this is what we're going to focus on. Is as part of the Azure Communication Services platform, we have Azure Event Grid, which helps you monitor and trigger automated workflows based on events, and these log analytics based on actions that happened when the email was sent, or whether once it got to your recipient, what happened there? Was it viewed? Was it clicked? Was it bounced back? And so using the email service is going to allow you insight as to what happened once that email was sent. So before the demo, let's just look briefly at why are these email analytics important, right? Like, why should you care about this? You click send and then you're done, right? No, it's actually very important to think about what happens when you click send. So the first thing to talk about is sender reputation, which is essentially a measure of the trustworthiness of an email sender. And this is impacted by quite a few different factors. So whether an email was received or marked as spam, having consistent email volumes, meaning you're not sending large amounts of traffic at one time and then not sending anything for a while. And you can manage this with different things like suppression lists. So making sure you're not always sending things to, inboxes that can't receive email. And ACS can help with, or Azure Communication Services email can help with this. We'll start by allowing a small amount of emails to go through, and once you build up that high sender reputation, we can substantially increase that volume amount. And this is important because this is going to help overall enhance your recipient engagement and their experience. If an email gets sent but it never gets delivered, you're not going to get insight. You're not going to get information about whether the campaign was successful. So looking at this and making sure you track the open rates and track the click rates, making sure things aren't marked as spam, this is going to help you personalize and create better experiences for your email campaign recipients. And then the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to look at email logs and email events. So logs are going to be detailed records of the email activity. So was it clicked? Was it opened? And you're going to get this information about what happened. So you can use this to monitor and debug your campaign, analyze trends. And this information is available in the portal, which we'll look at in the demo, or programmatically via an API. And then events, on the other hand, these are going to be notifications that are triggered by specific actions. So for example, something happens, an email was marked spam, and you want something to happen. This is where you can use email events and kind of trigger these automated workflows. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the demo. So this demo here, I'm going to click play, and I'm going to try to, it's okay. So we have we're in Azure portal, and you can see in this example, I already have a communication service created, and I have an email communication service created. I've already sent a bunch of emails from this, so we're just going to jump in and take a look. So once I'm in the communication resource, under the monitoring tab and then insights, that's the first place you want to look to get this kind of high level overview of what happened in your communication service. In this case, this is the overview tab, and you can see we have different categories. I specifically want email because that's what the focus is today. And this is going to pull up a few charts and tables. Again, just high level of how many emails were sent, how many were failed or suppressed, viewed and clicked. And we get these kind of, high level stats. I can see this information filtered by senders or at the high level overview. And then I'll click email performance, and this will give me, a few different bits of information, like how many were delivered or failed over the specific time period. I can change that. And I scroll down and see some more information. And at the bottom, we have this kind of tabular view where we can see information about our email statuses, whether they were successful, whether there's an error. But it doesn't give you a ton of info. It just kind of gives you, like I said, this high level view. So this is almost a preview to the next thing I want to show you, which is looking at the log data for emails. And we do this by coming again into the monitoring tab and clicking logs. And this is going to pull up our queries hub or the Azure log portal. And you see here, we have a few different queries that you can run out of the box that it suggests for you. But again, we're focused on email. So let's see what comes up with email. And there's 4 that we could run as samples. And let's go ahead and run email send request summary. So clicking run just starts that query for us. And we get this over this time frame. We have 14 messages that were sent, and not a ton of info here. This is just kind of a snapshot over this time period. But let's change this from simple mode to Custo query language mode, and this is going to allow us to see the actual query that was written to yield this result here. And you can see it should be pretty similar to SQL if you're familiar with that. But there were some operations done to kind of create this custom view for us. And you can play around with this and get the information you need. But let's see another query that we can use. So I'll go search for queries by clicking that button. I'm going to again filter by email. And now let's say we want emails that were, had a problem, that were either suppressed or bounced. So I'll click that, and it starts running this query for me. And I get the results that in this time period, I had 3 emails that had a delivery status that I would consider problematic and would want to know about. So you can dig in on the logs of any one of these, and you'll get information about, who it was sent to, what the failure reason was. You'll even get a failure message that gives you some insights as to, what happened, and maybe seeing, looking for more information to help you debug. So this kind of gives you that snapshot of emails that had a problem and allows you to look into them further. If I wanted to see everything on our email status operational table, I can just remove any sort of filters and click run this way. And that will give us everything. But let's actually focus on emails that were successful and delivered. And this is going to give us that view here. And we can see on the rightmost column, we have a delivery status of delivered. And same information here, right? I have, when the email or when this event, when the log was generated, who it was sent to, and just some further information this way. And it's a nice way to get this information on, what happened, who was it sent to, and we can kind of dive in. So this is great. I think the next thing to show would be, let's look at emails that were engaged with in some way. And so now I'm going to search for a different table, which is going to be our ACS email user engagement operational table. And this is going to pull up emails that were viewed and clicked. That's what we're searching for here, essentially. And you see we have a different response or different table view, and we have this column for engagement type, which gives us clicks and views, and we can see, what the engagement context was, which is the link that was clicked, if that was the case. And if I unfurl this, right, it gives me information as to what the engagement type was. In this case, the link was Microsoft.com. And I get this information about what happened. And now the thing to point out here, right, is this correlation ID is related to, the singular email that was sent out. And I see I have it several times. And so this might trigger something where I'm like, okay, this email got a lot of action, a lot of traction. Let's get more information on this specific email and see what happened. So I can filter by this correlation ID. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to customize my query to, instead of returning everything, I only want where the correlation ID matches this ID that I was just looking at. And so this is going to pull up all the events that correspond with this ID. And when I run this query, I'm going to see everything for this particular email. And I see, okay, this email was viewed 4 times. It was clicked 4 times. And if I scroll over, I can see, each of these 2 links was clicked twice. And I can kind of start to get an idea of what happened with this email. Was it successful? It was opened a bunch of times. So, maybe that's good. I don't know, what the goal of the campaign was, but this gives us kind of that insight as to, okay, this link was clicked. I can kind of create a narrative or insights as to what happened in terms of this email. And this is a very basic use case. If you're sending this email to thousands of people, you can use this table or this log to query and get the information you want. And then you can also, right, if you want to do stuff outside of just the query hub, you can export this data as raw CSV. You can export it to Power BI or really any other tool or dashboard that you want to visualize it or do further analysis. If you have an AI tool that you want to use to do further analysis, certainly an option as well. So this is kind of getting started with logs. And the next thing we're going to do is look at events, which are going to kind of have similar data, but now we're going to trigger some automated workflows as a result of this. So we are now in the event section of the Azure portal, and I don't have anything set up. We're going to actually set it up from scratch here. And so we're going to build kind of a reactive pub sub event viewer. And to do that, we're going to, from scratch, kind of deploy a series of resources that's going to be able to publish events to that I can view them live. And so we have a tool that does this, and it's going to deploy several resources that allow us to view our events. So we'll share this link in the chat. But so our Azure Event Grid Viewer, with just a few clicks, we're going to deploy the resources we need to Azure that allow us to have a website that can be subscribed to new events. And so I'm going to go ahead and follow these instructions. And doing this, right, it pulls up a custom deployment. You can name it, create a resource group or create a new one. Excuse me. In this case, we'll do demo resource group. And then the next thing is the site name. And this is going to actually be the URL for your Azure Event Grid Viewer. In this case, I just chose Reactor Event Page, and it points to the repo that kind of guides what to deploy. And now this is going to kick off the deployment like I said, it's going to kick off or deploy a few different services as part of our resource group to get this web app up and running. So the first one that comes up is a server farm. This is just a collection of virtual machines that's going to help host our web apps. The next is our actual web page, so this Reactor event page, and we'll open that in a second, and we'll see the web page that we're going to send our events to. And then the last one is our source control, and this is going to be like a series of control settings, configurations for our resource group. Now, once this is done, this is sped up a little bit in this demo video. It should take about 2 to 5 minutes. But now I have these resources ready to go. I'm going to look at our Reactor event page. And this is where I'm going to publish our events to. So right now, it's just a blank page. Not yet. So we're going to look at this is the domain for it. So if I open this website, it's just kind of a blank page ready for events. So there's nothing subscribed to it yet. So we're going to take note of our URL. And part of the deployment process is that it comes ready and equipped with an API endpoint that is ready to receive events via a webhook. So that's what we're going to do now is we're going to come to the event subscription. We're going to create a new event. In this case, we'll just call it email event subscription. Keep our event grid schema. And here we're going to search for email related events. So there's 2 that we're going to focus on. In this case, it's email engagement tracking and email delivery report. And so I select these, and now we're going to update these via a webhook. We're going to configure the endpoint, which we took note of that URL from our web page. And like I said, it comes already ready with an API endpoint to send things to. In this case, it's going to be that website /API/updates. And once I do this, now we're hooked up. Our communication service is ready to send events to the event grid viewer. And so this means once an email is sent or engaged with in some fashion, the event grid viewer should be populated with that information. So the next thing I'm going to do is set up, I'm going to send some emails, and we're going to see it happen in real time. I know this part of the video is pre-recorded, but it's real time, or near real time, I should say, with the events getting populated. So I'm going to go to this resource, the Try Email Blade. This is in a different section of our communication service, and I'm going to send some emails from here. So I'm just going to reconfigure my screen a little bit. So we have my inbox, the send email, and the event grid viewer all in the same pane. And from here, right, what's going to happen is I'm going to send an email. It's going to be received in my inbox. And then I should see on the top right, my event grid viewer get populated with the event. So I'm going to send this email on the left here. You can see this email, the body just has a link that says go to Copilot. And when I send this, we're going to see it populate in the bottom right in the email in my inbox. And then pretty soon after that gets sent, I should see an event pop up for a delivery report received. And we did. Awesome. So this is synced up, and every time an email event happens, I'm getting this near real-time update to the Azure Event Grid viewer, and I can see all sorts of information here. I see the status was delivered. I can see when it happened, who it was sent from, who the recipient was, and I can get information based on this. Now let's open the email, and we're going to see a new event popped up in our Event Grid tracker. And if I unfurl this and look into it, it's just a JSON blob with the information, but I can see that I have an engagement type of view, which tells us, that's what happened. The email was viewed, and now I have 2 different links. So if I were to click one of these links, in this case, I'm going to click the Go to Microsoft one. Now I have a new type of event, right? I'm going to unfurl this, and I have an engagement type of click, and I can see that it also includes the engagement context of the link that was clicked, which is Microsoft.com. I can do it one more time where I can click a different link, and I'll see a new event pop up. And in this case, where I click the other link, so if I unfurl that, I should see that I have a click event, and I have it for copilot.com. So this is a very kind of basic use case in terms of event notifications. Like all I'm doing is publishing these to an event grid viewer where I can view the different events that happened. But hopefully you can kind of see, connect the dots of what you might want to do if, say, an email was marked spam, or, if an email was clicked, you can have different actions trigger, in this case, do something different than just viewing them in an event grid viewer. So that's it for the demo part. I'll go back to the slides and just quickly want to recap. Right, so we did an ACS or Azure Communication Services overview. We talked about some of the capabilities. We went over the email as part of Azure Communication Services. Talked about sender reputation, and then in the demo, we looked at the insights, Azure logs, and event grid setup. And we'll share these resources, but there are a few different ways that you can go ahead and get started and do some of the things that we did in this session. So I think with that, that's all I have. I think we're a few minutes over, so I'm not sure if we have time for questions. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining. And I think that's it. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining, and we'll see you next time.